Go. Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of the Peace for the World series. And today I'm with Jacquie Forde. Hello, Jacquie.
Hi, Sebastian.
Jacquie Forde, or I will call her just Jacquie. Um, I met her the first time in London, and what showed up for me is that she has such a big heart. Like, just showing up with love, and when you see her, you just smile. And it's so random, but I want to share that when we talked for the first time, like real, it was in a restaurant, and it was such a normal conversation, but you could even feel in that conversation that she's, yeah, just a beautiful person. And yeah, it was a lovely meeting. And that's why I also invited her, because meeting, conversing with her is always fun. And yeah, I think she can bring a bit of peace and yeah, fun to the episode. So Jacquie, diving into the topic directly, um, you said you would like to talk about a specific topic. The topic will be fear.
Yeah,
So how does fear show up in your life in the last few weeks, months, years?
I think fear is a wonderful topic. And the reason that I think it's a wonderful topic is we all have it in areas of our life. And sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't see it. And I want just to read you a wee quote before I start sort of talking about how I see fear and how fear has shown up for me and how I see it showing up for the clients that I work with and the coaches that I mentor. This is the quote. It's real fearlessness is the product of tenderness. It comes from letting the world tickle your heart, your raw and beautiful heart. You're willing to open up without resistance or shyness and just face the world. You're willing to share your heart with others. I love that because I came across that quote the afternoon after I'd been in at the Scottish Parliament speaking to some politicians about the three principles about this understanding. And I'd arrived at the appointment early and I wasn't feeling too well that day. And it was really, really, really interesting. While I was sitting, I wasn't in a peaceful state. My thinking was going all over the place. And at one point, I felt a knot in my stomach. And I thought, whoa, that's really interesting. Where is that coming from? And I could see my thinking and I could hear my thinking and I could feel that feeling. And it was funny for me. I found it funny because I thought, I'm going to speak to this politician and I know more than he does about this. And if I just show up as myself, he'll gain an understanding. He'll feel something from me as I talk about it. And I just shrugged my shoulders and I didn't have a problem with it. But the other day, my car, I have a lease car, and it was due to go back. And I've known for about 6 weeks that I wanted to extend the lease in the car, and I didn't. I procrastinated and I procrastinated, and there was almost an element of fear behind them going, no, you can't keep the car. And I didn't do it. I just didn't. I wouldn't make the phone call. And then on the day before it was meant to go back, I phoned them up, and it was the easiest conversation I've ever had in my life. And I thought, oh my goodness, everything that happens to us is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to see something different. I thought, isn't that curious? That I will go and have conversations with anybody. I don't care who they are. I really don't care who they are because they're just human beings. Yet, I had this irrational fear about phoning up to extend the lease on my car. And it just started me thinking about where does fear show up? How does it show up? When does it show up? And how do people pay attention to it? And it's fascinating with the clients and the coaches that I mentor and the entrepreneurs that I work with. And even the community work that I do, how often the conversation is around fear. It's almost like it's unspoken. People can't do something, won't do something. Something didn't work before. Not interested. And you just wonder what it is that stops them.
Yeah. And it's fear. And what I see in is that often we then build up a story around fear, why we cannot do anything. I'm too old. I'm I'm too lazy. I'm just not the type, or whatever story you come up.
Yeah.
And yeah, like one story that comes to my mind, or one situation, was when I was younger. I was not very socially. I was yeah, very shy around women, and I made up the stories that I was just not enough. That I was just not made to connect with people, and so I stayed in house and didn't do anything about it. And now looking back, I see that it was fear. Every time I went out and got into contact, it was fear that held me back. That I did not talk to the person next to me, and then I built the story around it.
And that's it, isn't it? And you build the story and then you look for all the examples that make it seem more real for you. It's almost like you're building a wall with all of these brick by brick by brick, belief by belief by belief, not understanding that it's all just thought. You're creating it in the moment. You're just building something that's not real. I mentored about 4 or 5 weeks ago in a course, and I asked the people there, I said, what stops you? What stops you? And it was so funny because when you say that to people, they tell you the most incredible story. And it goes on and on and on and on. And I love listening to those stories and letting people talk and talk and talk and talk. And I just listen. Because in that listening, you just gain so much insight into their world and how they think, but also by not responding to it and not asking questions about it, hopefully they'll hear something in what they're saying that helps them see that they are just making it up. One of my daughters does this all the time. You know, she would phone me about 10 o'clock at night and tell me about this had happened, this had happened, this had happened. And it was almost like she was unloading everything onto me at night time. So she would go to her bed and sleep, but I'd be completely wired because it was like a download, you know. She sort of uploaded to me and I downloaded it and I was all over the place. And I thought, that's fascinating. And I would just let her do that. And one day she said to me, oh, it doesn't matter, does it, Mum? And I haven't had any of those phone calls for ages and ages. And about a couple of weeks ago, she phoned me in the morning and she said, I had another one of those days, Mum, but I just went to my bed because I knew that I was tired. So by not perpetuating the story, by not getting involved in other people's story of their fear of what stops them, hopefully they will see for themselves what it is they need to see. Michael Neal once, I was going on a transformational weekend with Michael Neal and Paul McKenna, and there was only 6 of us in the course, and you got a sort of a pre-call before the weekend, and Michael said to me, tell me, Jacquie, what is it you want to happen on this 2 days, this transformational weekend? So I had a list as long as my arm. I want this to happen, I want that to happen, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I went on and on for ages. And do you know what his reply was? That's the biggest litany of shite I've ever heard in my life. In other words, he called me on my thinking. And in that instant of humour, I saw what I was doing. I saw that I was making it all up. But how often do we do that? How often do we not see the story?
Wow. Oh, I love that. Even now, seeing you talk, I saw something new. In the last few weeks, there showed up something that I could not name. It was that I had some panic attacks. That every time I was together with people for a longer time, I felt like there's a flight response, like I want to go away. And I was making up the story that I'm a person who has panic attacks or who cannot stay longer with people,
Yeah.
and that it came from me being this awkward, socially awkward guy when I was 13, 14 years old. And even though I've seen that that I'm enough, that everything is fine with me, there was still something like these old beliefs that were still present. Like you still had some blind spots that you could not see. Or the first time we met, it was on a conference in London, and I talked to the person who organized this conference, Aaron Turner, and I asked him about workshops to create for businesses and how I can do this. And in the end, I did not talk about the practical stuff, but about excuses that I had for myself. I asked him, "Do you think I'm not too young to create workshops with people who are 20 years older than you, or if I'm not experienced enough, or yeah, if I'm just not just ready enough?" And he was like, "Yeah, Sebastian, you probably heard it before, but it's just thought."
That's so Aaron. I heard a lovely story about Aaron with someone who was going to, who hated presenting, hated public speaking. And she was due to go on the stage and she's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I really hate this. It's not something I enjoy. And Aaron said to her, well, it's up to you. But if you don't do it, thinking wins. And I love that. And, you know, there's been many a time where perhaps I felt a bit of fear about something. And it's just kind of like, if I don't do it, thinking wins. And it makes me giggle because how formless is thought? How formless is it? And it's curious, Sebastian, because the times that I've noticed I take myself and I believe in the fear is when I'm serious, when I'm not in a playful place. So maybe my awareness or my consciousness is maybe just at a lower state. Maybe I'm tired, or maybe I've eaten something that doesn't agree with me, or maybe I've got too much in my mind, or I'm needing to go and take a walk. And sometimes I see that as well. It's like I can feel myself getting into a position of overthinking something and creating my own fear about something. And then all of a sudden, it's like you just feel so blessed that the veil's lifted and you think, oh, that's why. That's why I'm taking it too seriously. Most of the time I'm sort of in a really sort of playful, fun mood, and you know, and I love being in that place. But every now and again I go into this serious place, and in that serious place lies, it's almost like the universe goes, here's another illusion, boom, deal with it. You know, when I'm in that kind of frame of mind. And sometimes I see it and sometimes I don't see it. And I'm grateful when I do. And I'm gracious when I don't. Because I know I'll catch up with it at some point. So I'm not scared of it. I'm not scared of seeing fear or feeling fear, because it gives me an opportunity to ask, why is it? Why am I feeling this? And then let it go.
Mm. And the funny thing is, as happiness goes away, fear also goes away. It's nothing that is, no feeling is permanent. It just looks like we see one situation where we feel fear, and then we project it on our whole life. And it seems like if I screw up this one thing, my whole life will be lost.
Absolutely. It's like, the sort of sports people, you're taking, I love basketball, as you know, sort of you're taking a, a free throw and it's the last 10 seconds of the game. You've got the opportunity to score a goal and, the cup decider in the last minute of the game or the last couple of seconds in the game. How often do people feel that fear and then analyze that fear in a split second? I'm going to miss. I'm not going to manage to do it. And then with that, you start to see approval, you start to see judgment, you start to see all sorts of other things coming into play that are part of that fear. But none of them are real. But yet in that instant, in that millisecond, you can make things up. I actually start to laugh now when I see myself doing this. When I do catch it, it's kind of like, oh no, I've lost that contract. I'm not going to get that work. Oh, that means I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. Oh God, that means I'm going to be out in my ear. I won't have a home to live in. And then boom, I'll catch myself and it'll be like, yeah, and then my hair's going to fall out and my husband will leave me and and they'll put me in the front of the national newspaper and it's kind of like I make it more and more ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. You have beautiful hair, Jackie.
Thank you. It's a wig. It's a wig. But it's that whole thing about when you can catch it, you can make fun of it because you see that it's not real. Or you can let it go. It's whatever works for you. But likewise, conversely, you can have that same thought, but instead of adding the ridiculous to it, you can add incredible reality to it that you think you're adding to it, and that all these terrible things are going to happen. And they're real. And you can believe them. So it's almost like I love, I love thinking of like a pathway, and you can go one way or you can go the other way, and at the fork of a road. And with this understanding, you tend to go down the road that says, hey, it doesn't matter. Hey, and let it go. Or sometimes you don't even need to go through that process. You just don't even put any kind of attachment on it. And it just flows through. Or you can go down the other road and you can scare the crap out of yourself. And what's lovely, I think, with this understanding is more and more, you don't scare yourself. You see it, you catch it, and you let it go. Realizing that you're only one thought away from
Yeah.
Something else.
And I think then often you just try whatever you are up to. Why not give it a try? I think that's a lovely question. Um, just a personal experience. I was 2 years ago. I was since I was always shy with women. I was in Brazil, and at this one night, I talked to a girl I was really really attracted to, and we had a lovely conversation. It was just normal conversation for, I think it was in total 1 hour, and I was relaxed. I just enjoyed the conversation, and we talked and talked, and at one moment she walked off to the dance floor because I was a bit distracted going to the bar, and I walked back to the dance floor. And before that time, it never occurred that I could fail or that anything could go wrong. But then I saw her and I froze. I was like, oh God, I cannot walk up to her anymore. And I thought, okay, yeah, then it's just not right for me. I'm just not this person. Then yeah, maybe I will meet another person. And I really liked her, so I walked off. And at one moment there was coming in this new music by the Killers. I love you, the Killers, by the way. And I just thought, okay, why not give it a try? Like it was a whatever. And it turned out that we had another date afterwards.
It's lovely.
And it was just like it did not make any looking now back, it did not make any sense that she could not respond well to me going up. I mean, we had a conversation of 1 hour and we laughed together. We It was so beautiful. And the fear was, it was so ridiculous.
But in that instant, you believed it.
Yeah.
And then you let it go. And that's the trick, if there is a trick, is if you're able to see it, it's just to let it go. I mean, there's no doing in it. In seeing it, often it just goes anyway. It just dissipates. And if it doesn't dissipate then, it'll go away later on. It always does. Always, always does. And sometimes for me, if I feel a bit of fear, it can be wisdom telling me to do something. You know, to get on with something. It can be a bit of a message.
Yet that for me, what shows up right now is that often fear is this big sign that tells you, okay, there's an area you probably have something, some belief that holds you back. Yeah.
It holds people back all the time. People, I mean, you know this yourself, you know, with people that are all walks of life, every human being, but I think especially in sort of the coaching world, there's a lot of people that they have all this understanding and all of this humanity to share, yet something stops them. Something stops them from playing big in the world, and instead they play small. So they have difficulty earning money, they have difficulty getting their message out there. They feel as though what they want to do is always outside of them. It's always, the answer is always in another course. It's always in another coaching, package with somebody. And they feel that the answer is not in them, it's outside of them. And what I do is I work with people who have that, who feel that, and help them see, because it's dead easy to turn around to somebody and say, oh, you're just making it all up. That doesn't work. It doesn't work, because you know yourself, if someone was to point something out to you and say, oh, don't do that because this is what you're actually doing, you're not learning from it, you're not feeling it, you're not experiencing what it is to experience to make that change. I love all these things, 10 steps to this and 15 steps to that and 52 things to do before you can be this. And I find them curious because they are pointing people in a direction. And people may get insights when reading them that make them think, oh, okay, and something changes for them. But the biggest changes that I've seen in myself and in the people that I work with is when they really see what it is that's holding them back. And the only thing that can ever hold any of us back is the film noir or the dark novel that we've created about our life. And it's not real. I mean, you think about what Sid said, and Sid talked about, sort of a memory is just a thought carried across time. How innocuous. how, how could you get bogged down by that? It's just a thought carried across time. And when I think about that, I just think of helium balloons and thoughts fleeing about all over the place. It doesn't, most of the time, there's no attachment to it. And it makes things lighter and fresher and more fun rather than, oh, my life was terrible. This happened to me in the past and that happened to me in the past. And I've never had a decent relationship. Okay, that might be your story. But if it's still stopping you now in the future, then that's where I want to look. I don't want to look to the past. I want to look to the future. And I want to look now. And I want to help you see that what it is that's happening is how you're creating your reality.
Bam! Here we go. Lovely ending, short and sweet. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, Jacquie. It was, yeah, funny, everything you want in an interview. No, it was a dialogue, you could say. Yeah. And if people are interested in catching up with you, if they want to, yeah, talk to you or get in contact with you, what's the best way to do this?
The best way to do it is to go to the JacquieForde.com website, and I'm sure Sebastian will put that out with the video, which is just lovely.
Yeah.
And from there, you'll see the kind of stuff that I'm doing, both with my non-profit and with my for-profit organisation. So it'd be really nice to hear from you, and the email and everything is on that website. Thank you, Sebastian. I can't believe you were ever shy with women.
That's my past.
That's your film noir.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, yeah. Thank you very much for watching. And yeah, I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, see you on the next episode of Peace for the World series. Bye. Bye.